Well, thank you, Sav. One of the challenges I know is when you make 4 or 5 speeches at UBCM, most people say, well, I don't need to go to the main speech because I've heard it all already. Well, you won't have heard everything that I'm going to talk about today, and I'm delighted to be here. This is truly an opportunity for me to come back to a forum that I spent many years at as an elected official in a local government, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here now as the minister. I think the first UBCM I ever came to as a newly elected councillor, I was nervous, and I heard someone say earlier today, for newly elected officials, don't be afraid to ask questions, to share a point of view. And I know I was reluctant in those early days because I thought, well, I need time to learn what everything is about when it comes to local government. But it is fresh ideas and new voices and new perspectives that are so important to every organization. And I know across the province this last election, we had close to a third of newly elected councillors and mayors, and I think that's a testament to people are still engaged in the election process and commitments to their community. I do want to recognize, of course, that we're on the traditional territories of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish peoples. And I said this in each of the comments that I made previous to this, that the heritage of this province is built on our Aboriginal communities and our First Nations communities, and I know that our relationship is ever evolving, but we all have the same goal in mind. And when we had the all chiefs meetings just recently, we talked about the future of the province and how that impacted our First Nations communities, and I want to celebrate the work that is being done in communities across this province by you in developing relationships with our First Nations, because it is so critical to the future of our province. I also want to recognize my colleague, Minister Coralie Oakes, who's over here. And very good, you copied her really well. But Coralie is a very passionate person that I met a few years ago now. And I know she dedicated her efforts in this role, in this ministry, and I want to applaud her for her efforts. I want to applaud her for her passion and her commitment to the province of British Columbia and the service she's given up to now and that she will in the future. So Coralie, thank you for everything that you did as well. And I have a number of other colleagues in the room that I know equally work as hard, and I'm not going to try and introduce them all because I may have missed some. But I know Minister Stephanie Cadieux is here. I know that her Parliamentary Secretary, Jane Thornthwaite, is here. I have my Parliamentary Secretary, Linda Reamer, is sitting over here. And all of us, as all of you, do the best that we can to serve our communities and to serve our province. And that indeed is a calling that none of us should take for granted. And also I want to thank all of the families of all of the people in this room who are elected, who have served their communities and continue to serve, because without the support of our families, and I know with my wife Charlene, over the years that I've been involved in local government, the sacrifices that my family made to allow me to do that, I know, and President Sav, I know you spoke of this earlier, it is important for us who love this job and who work hard to recognize the contribution that our families make to that, and I want to celebrate that as well. I also want to recognize two other individuals in my ministry. I'm the new minister, and when I was appointed, I had the pleasure of meeting a new deputy minister to this ministry, Jackie Dawes, who's sitting back there. Jackie, you can stand up and wave. And with her is the new ADM of local government, Tara Faganello. And if you can pronounce her name after my speech, we'll look at a grant for you at least. And I said that once already. People have tried to take me up on it. But I want you to know that I am so proud to have a team in the ministry that we do who work day in and day out, don't often get the recognition, but interact with local governments every day and help them sort through government and some of the processes that they need. And you know, our role in the ministry is really simple. It is to help people, to provide the tools that are necessary. When we have the resources that we can help to provide funds, whether it is in the sport community or in the arts and culture community, or for local governments as you struggle with your fiscal challenges, I know the team is dedicated to doing that. You know, the theme of UBCM this year, when I saw it, Excellence in Action, really speaks to what I've seen in all of the years that I've been involved. We have, at the local community level, people who work in our departments, in our communities, that strive to provide excellent service to their elected officials, to their communities, to our residents. And I think this theme celebrates that excellence in action. It's not about striving for a goal, it is celebrating a goal that is already being achieved day in and day out in communities. And you never say you've reached the pinnacle of that, because we're always striving for better. And I think a lot of the workshops and the comments that are being made are about looking for how do we do things better in the future. All of you know, as I do, whether it's a federal initiative, a provincial, or a local government, there's only one taxpayer. We all hear about taxpayers saying, how much more can we be asked to do? And that is a huge challenge for us as we try and struggle with all of the fiscal realities that we have. But I can assure you that Premier Clark, my colleagues around the cabinet table and in our caucus, and the opposition party, we hold ourselves accountable for ensuring that we do the best we can, and we do it in the most efficient and effective way that we can. And part of that, as you know, back in 2013, when the Office of the Auditor General for Local Government was talked about, and I was on the UBCM executive at that time, and I know there were a lot of questions by local governments about what was the purpose of this office, and aren't local governments doing a good job? Don't they already keep that fiscal environment in mind? And it wasn't a question of whether or not that is being done, but how can we work together to do better? I would be remiss if I stood up here and said, we did a great job out of the gate. There were challenges. Minister Oakes, the Premier, all of us recognize that the startup and the first opportunities within that office were fraught with some challenges. But it was a unique approach in this country, and it was one that we believed that we could do what was right and best for the communities and for the province and the taxpayers. It wasn't a successful start, but we did learn. And I want you to know, as the minister who is now taking over this responsibility, that what we learned has started to be implemented. You've heard that already. The work that Arn van Arstel has done to go through the reports, the independent report we did, the report that I've received from UBCM, we have already started to implement measures to ensure that some of the things that were challenges can be overcome by working hard together and redefining the future of that office and its role in partnership with local governments. And I use that word partnership very clearly and intentionally, because the office's job is to work with you, not to be looking for what's wrong, but helping to identify where the opportunities are so that we can all move together and forward in a positive fashion. That is my commitment, it's the government's commitment, and I believe we will achieve that together. When I met with outgoing President Sav and incoming President Al Richmond in my office shortly after I was appointed, and I had received the report, I said, I will guarantee you that the recommendations in it are being looked at by myself and our ministry and the office, and whatever we do moving forward will take into consideration a couple of key things. And those key things are being sensitive to local governments and their needs in how we move forward. Number two, creating an environment of two-way communication with the office and with the province to ensure that we find those opportunities, those positive ways that we can work together. And the third thing was, in being sensitive, having an opportunity for local government nuances to be understood by the office and the people that serve in that office. So one of the things that has been happening is we've been searching for a replacement for the Auditor General for local government. And I am delighted today to announce that Mr. Gordon Ruth is the new appointee as the Auditor General for local government. Gordon Ruth is currently serving as the Executive Vice President of Certification and Operations for the Professional Accountants of British Columbia. Those of you that have been in local government back to the GVRD days will know Gordon because he served the GVRD, and his last post with the GVRD, now Metro Vancouver, was the CFO. And he had a distinguished career in that role, and he has proven himself as, number one, understanding what is appropriate when it comes to performance reviews and so on, but he also understands local government. And when you meet him, you will clearly see that he understands what his role as the new Auditor General is, and I know that he is going to provide the communication and the dialogue between local governments and build relationship that is positive. And I'm delighted that he's accepted that position. Now, details of his credentials will be on the AGLG website when you walk out of here, so you can read about all of his other accomplishments. But I am absolutely confident that the Audit Committee and their interviews with him, and I had the opportunity to meet him before making this appointment, I can assure you that the issues that we had in the past will definitely not be the issues of the future with a man of his caliber in that position. President Sav and incoming President Richmond, I want you to know that I also read the report, and one of the issues of understanding local government and sensitivity was one of the key issues that had been brought forward in the research that you did with members. So I'm also pleased to announce today that in the next few weeks, I'll be announcing 2 additional appointments to the Audit Council of 2 individuals who have previously held elected positions as local government leaders to the Audit Council to provide that extra dimension of sensitivity and communication and relationship with local governments, because I believe that will help the Audit Council to fulfill its function and its responsibilities in working with the Auditor General. And you know, I want you to know that in spite of some of the challenges, a lot of good work took place under Arne van Urstel's leadership as an interim AGLG. And I'm not going to go through the list of all of the accomplishments, but I also know that just today the Comox Valley Regional District report was released, and I saw the highlights of that report earlier this morning, and I can tell you it is a classic example of a review that has found what is working well and where opportunities for additional growth has been identified. And to me, that's what it's all about. And that's why excellence in action is being celebrated even by the reports that are coming out of the Auditor General for Local Government's office. You know, we live in a great province. We've got great communities, and I have said this in the last couple of days to many of you, that federal policy, provincial policy, find their way to local communities where the rubber really meets the road. And I know, and Linda Reed, our speaker, is here, and she and I talked about her community of Richmond. And I know that communities and volunteers in communities are the lifeblood of us being able to accomplish the things that we as elected officials want to do. And in the province, along with UBCM, we like to celebrate some of those things that are done in our community. And sometimes I think people think about awards and they say, do they really have a value? And I absolutely believe that by recognizing people at your local council meetings, in community volunteer organizations is important. But I also believe that you as locally elected officials can help us by bringing names forward for some of the provincial recognition that we do. And many of you know the Medal of Good Citizenship is being promoted. The deadline is fast approaching, and I would encourage you not to say, well, somebody else will nominate someone. Nominate individuals for it who you know are making a difference in your community, and honoring them that way, as I know I was honored for some of the volunteer work that I did. It means a lot because most volunteers don't do it for recognition. They do it because they believe in the term, it's better to give than it is to receive. But I think we as people who see these individuals day in and day out should nominate them and recognize them and provide them with the thanks that we need to give them for the work that they do. I also know the UBCM, in terms of all of the Community Excellence Awards, and you've heard about many of them, more to come at the convention here. And again, what's recognized there is communities that do the hard work, elected officials and their staff that work very hard to provide that extra opportunity to help their citizens and engage their citizens. And I know the town of Smithers received the award for their Let's Talk initiative. And when I heard about this, I was so impressed because I remember when I was the mayor and we had our budget sessions, and we used to have open houses, and the staff and councilors outnumbered the public that came to those meetings. Either they were disinterested or felt that it wasn't something that they would have any opportunity to make a difference with, and they do. So what did the community do? Well, they put the Let's Talk initiative together, and they've had great success in getting the community to come out and talk to their council and to their staff about what's going on in their great community. And I know they've been recognized for that, and I applaud them for that effort as well. You know, as government, and often in these settings, we talk about partnerships, and it's a word that is easily used. But I said it in some of my other comments. Partnerships are not a one-way street. They're a two-way street. Partnerships talk about a quality of representation. And I know that we as the government of British Columbia, under the leadership of our Premier Christy Clark, the members of Cabinet and our caucus, want to do everything we can to build those partnerships throughout the province in every single community. And I know that that effort is one that has already borne quite a bit of fruit. When you think about the Peace River Agreement that we reached, and I was just recently in Fort St. John, and I know in talking with the mayor of Fort St. John and Dawson Creek and the other people in the Peace River, it was clear it was not an easy process. There wasn't total agreement all the time about how to get there, but at the end of the day, the province and those communities worked together and they came up with an agreement that is going to take us into the future. The same thing with the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Initiative, where the government has put money on the table to help with interns and to help with structuring that moving forward so that we can look at the implementation of a 20-year infrastructure program, development program in that area. The Northwest, I just met with all of the communities from the Northwest the other day, and we are moving forward in our discussions about the future of that area as it comes to economic development and the opportunities we have, which are generational in the LNG sector, but not just LNG, the mining industry, the forest industry, all of those industries that contribute to the future of this great province. So we're looking at all of those things. We're working with the federal government in terms of the infrastructure funding and the Build Canada funds. And as was said about FCM's efforts, which we appreciate, we know clearly that one of our jobs as the provincial government, along with you as UBCM and individual local governments, is to work with our federal partners to find every bit of resource we can to help us to deal with the infrastructure challenges that we have. There's lots of work to do. There's more dialogue we as the province will have with UBCM. And President Sav, in his speech this morning, talked about what was felt to be a lack of consultation on some of those issues. And while I don't have all the answers and I don't have all of the elements that we need to work on, I will say this: we will be collaborating, we will be communicating, we will be working together because we all care about one thing, and that's the future of British Columbia. That's my commitment on behalf of the Premier, the ministers, and I know that while we may have challenges along the way, as long as we're talking to each other and respect each other's roles and contributions, we can find solutions, and that is indeed what we are all about. You know, issues like the gas tax and the recent signing of the next 10 years are all demonstrations of FCM, UBCM, the province of British Columbia, the federal government, working together in the interests of every single community. There's another initiative that we've done with my colleague, Minister Teresa Watt, that you need to go to the forum next door and to all of the booths and find out about the new initiative that she and her ministry have worked very hard on, and that is to help every single community in this province reach out around the world to the markets that are interested in investing in British Columbia. The profiles for every single community in British Columbia are on there. We urge you to take a look at it. We urge you to work with the ministry to update that as new initiatives come into your community. And this tool was developed over 18 months with support from all of you and your staff and the other ministries. And it is there to reach out and to say, no matter where in the province of British Columbia you want to look for opportunities, you can find them, you can get the profiles of the community, you can find out what's already going on, and you can find out where the opportunities are for you as an investor in every single corner of British Columbia. And Minister Watt and her team have worked very hard to develop this tool for you. So please, whatever you do, take advantage of it, use it, and I know you will be delighted with what it can do for you and your community. There's lots of other things that we've done over the years together. I do want to touch on one thing. I said yesterday, and I'll say it today, I am the Minister of Community, Sport, and Cultural Development with a little add-on called TransLink. And I take that seriously because this ministry is diverse. My first responsibility is to work with all of you in community, and one of those is Metro Vancouver when it comes to transportation. I want to say that Minister Stone has worked very hard to get us to where we are today. Do we have all the answers? No, we don't. Do we have challenges? Yes, we do. But I commit to working with the mayors at the Mayor's Council, the board of directors who are appointed by the mayors, and the first step I did soon after I was given this responsibility was to appoint 2 individuals who I believe bring tremendous experience and insight from a regional point of view as the government representatives at that table at the board, which we've never had before. And that is a clear statement on behalf of our government that we are committed to rolling up our sleeves and working with the regions in our shared and separate responsibilities to find a solution. And I know that that is going to be challenging. I've been at the table. I know some of the challenges that are there, but I welcome the opportunity to demonstrate to the mayors and to the citizens of Metro Vancouver that we need to restore the confidence in the organization and the work that it does with one goal, and that is, again, to build a healthy region of which transportation is one of the keys. And that is my commitment to the mayors of Metro Vancouver, to the people of the region, and to the province. Because while Metro Vancouver has its unique needs, it is part of British Columbia, and we need to integrate transportation throughout the province to the benefit of every region in the province, and that is our commitment. And I know Minister Stone shares that commitment, and we're going to work together to do that. The last thing I'm going to say, because, you know, there's so many things. I love this forum. I love the opportunities to meet. But I know Premier Clark and Minister Coleman have worked so hard on the LNG and the future of the economic growth as it relates to that industry. But you need to know that every other minister around the cabinet table, Minister Rustad, Minister Thompson, Minister Letnick, Minister Lake, we all have one thing in mind, is how can we ensure the future health, prosperity of every community in this province. And that is not an easy task, as you all know, because, as I said, it happens on the streets and the byways of your communities. But we need to keep our eye on the one ball. British Columbia is going to lead Canada in economic development for the future of our children and grandchildren, and that is our goal, and I know it's your goal, and we're going to get there together. You know, and I know Minister Bond has worked so hard on the Skills and Jobs Blueprint to provide opportunities for our young people to get the skills and the training they need for real jobs in real communities, day in and day out. And I applaud the work that she's done. We're now working on new initiatives as it deals with the creative economy and looking at the advancement of technology in this province, which doesn't just happen in downtown Vancouver. I've seen it in communities where people have great careers and great opportunities for new technology, working in much different environments than many of us did as we built our careers. But I know that we are absolutely on the right track, and together we can do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely humbled, honored to be the minister and to work with UBCM and each and every one of you. While I may not be perfect, I know none of us are. But what is right is we can respect each other in the roles we play. We can work together for the future of the province of British Columbia. And I again applaud each and every one of you for every hour, every minute of every day that you work to that goal. Thank you very much.